I was 63 years old the first time I ate Thanksgiving dinner, sitting on a paint can in my son's garage. The turkey was cold by the time Jessica brought it to me on a paper plate. Not the good china I'd watched her unwrap that morning. The Lennox set I'd given them as a wedding gift 5 years ago. No, I got a flimsy paper plate that sagged under the weight of a single slice of dry breast meat, a scoop of lumpy mashed potatoes, and exactly 3 green beans. "Here you go, Barbara," Jessica said, not quite meeting my eyes as she set the plate on old workbench. Sawdust from who knows when still coated the surface. "I thought you'd be more comfortable out here. You know, you talk too much." Before we continue, please subscribe and hit that notification bell, and let us know where in the world you're watching from in the comments. Now, back to my story. My name is Barbara Ann Morrison. I'm 63 years old, a retired 4th grade teacher, a widow of 7 years, and the mother of 1 son who I sacrificed everything for. And as I sat there in that garage, listening to my family celebrate without me, I realized something important. I was done being quiet. But I wasn't going to make a scene. Not today, not yet. Because the thing about teaching 9-year-olds for 35 years is you learn patience. You learn to watch. You learn that the best lessons are the ones people teach themselves. And as I finished my cold turkey and set the paper plate carefully on the workbench, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to teach my daughter-in-law a lesson she'd never forget. Let me back up. I need you to understand that I'm not a difficult person. I'm not a meddling mother-in-law. I'm not one of those women who calls their son 15 times a day or shows up uninvited with casseroles and opinions. I raised Michael by myself after his father, David, died suddenly of a heart attack when Michael was just 15. David was a contractor, a good man who worked himself to exhaustion providing for us. When he died, he left us with a half-finished house, a mountain of medical debt, and an insurance policy that barely covered the funeral. I worked 2 jobs to put Michael through college. I taught during the day and waited tables at a diner on weekends and Thursday nights. I watched other families take vacations while I budgeted every penny to make sure Michael could join the robotics club, go on the senior trip, have a normal childhood despite losing his father. When Michael graduated from Northwestern with a degree in software engineering, I was so proud I cried through the entire ceremony. He was the first person in our family to get a 4-year degree. He got a job at a tech company in the city, making more money than David and I had ever dreamed of. And then 2 years later, he met Jessica. I remember the first time he brought her home. She was beautiful, tall and blonde, with the kind of effortless elegance that comes from a lifetime of good nutrition, orthodontics, and confidence. She wore a cream cashmere sweater and designer jeans that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. "Mom, this is Jessica," Michael said, and the way he looked at her, like she'd hung every star in the sky, made my heart both soar and sink at the same time. "Mrs. Morrison." "It's so wonderful to finally meet you," Jessica said, shaking my hand with a grip that was just a touch too firm. "Michael talks about you constantly." We had dinner at a nice Italian restaurant downtown, the kind of place with cloth napkins and prices that weren't listed on the menu. Michael insisted on paying, and I let him, though it made me uncomfortable. Jessica ordered wine I'd never heard of and made conversation about gallery openings and charity galas. I tried to keep up. I really did. I told a story about one of my students who'd won the regional spelling bee. Jessica smiled politely, but checked her phone twice while I was talking. "Your mother is charming," I heard her say to Michael later, when she thought I was in the restroom. "Very wholesome." The way she said wholesome made it sound like an insult. But I pushed the feeling away. Michael was happy. That was what mattered. They got engaged 6 months later. Jessica's parents paid for most of the wedding, a lavish affair at a country club I'd driven past 1,000 times, but never imagined I'd enter. I contributed what I could. $5,000 I'd been saving for a new roof. The shingles could wait, I told myself. This was my son's wedding. Jessica barely acknowledged the check. "Oh, how sweet," she said, tucking it into her designer purse without a second glance. "We'll put this toward the flowers." The flowers alone cost $15,000. At the wedding, I wore a dress I'd found on sale at Macy's. Navy blue, simple, appropriate. When I arrived, Jessica's mother, Patricia, looked me up and down with barely concealed disdain. "Oh," she said, "you're wearing that. Is something wrong?" I asked. No, Patricia said quickly, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "It's just that Jessica specifically requested jewel tones for the mothers, emerald or ruby, but navy is fine. I'm sure you look lovely." I found out later that Jessica had sent her a detailed email about the dress code, an email I'd never received. During the reception, I was seated at a table near the kitchen with distant cousins I'd never met and a great-aunt of Michael's, who had advanced dementia and kept asking where her husband was. Michael and Jessica didn't come by our table once during dinner, but I smiled through the whole thing. I danced with Michael during the mother-son dance to "What a Wonderful World," and when he hugged me, he whispered, "Thanks for everything, Mom. I love you." That made it worth it. Or so I thought. The first year of their marriage, things were okay. Not great, but okay. They bought a beautiful 4-bedroom house in Winnetka, one of those picture-perfect suburbs north of Chicago, where every lawn is manicured and every SUV is freshly washed. The house cost $1.2 million. I remember because Michael told me, pride and anxiety mixing in his voice. "Can you afford that?" I'd ask carefully. "Jessica's parents gave us a substantial down payment," he said, "and with my salary and her job at the marketing firm, we'll be fine. Plus, it's a great investment." I bit my tongue. I wanted to say that houses that expensive came with expensive property taxes, expensive maintenance, expensive everything, but I didn't. Michael was 30 years old. He could make his own decisions. They invited me over for dinner once a month, always on a Sunday. Jessica would cook something elaborate, coq au vin or beef Wellington, and serve it on those Lennox plates I'd given them. The conversation was always stilted, polite. Jessica would ask about my week in a tone that suggested she was fulfilling an obligation rather than expressing genuine interest. I tried to help with the dishes once, and Jessica practically shooed me away from the sink. "Oh no, Barbara, you're a guest," she said, her voice sugary sweet. "Just relax in the living room. Michael will keep you company." But Michael was always on his laptop, checking work emails, distracted. I'd sit on their expensive cream-colored sofa, afraid to move too much or leave a wrinkle, and wait for it to be an appropriate time to leave. Then, 2 years into the marriage, Jessica got pregnant. Michael called me at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night, breathless with excitement. "Mom, we're having a baby. You're going to be a grandmother," I cried. Happy tears, overwhelming tears. A grandchild, a new generation, a chance to be the grandmother I'd always dreamed of being. "When are you due?" I asked. "July," Michael said. "Jessica's about 10 weeks along. We just had the first ultrasound today." "I can't wait to meet him, or her." "I'll send you the ultrasound picture," Michael promised. He never did. When little Emma was born, 7 pounds, 3 ounces, with Michael's dark hair and Jessica's delicate features, I was at the hospital within an hour of getting the call. I'd bought out half the baby section at Target, onesies and blankets and tiny socks that looked impossibly small. Jessica was in the recovery room, looking exhausted but radiant, holding Emma against her chest. Michael sat beside her, his eyes red from happy tears. "Mom," he said, gesturing me over, "come meet your granddaughter." I held Emma for exactly 3 minutes before Jessica's mother arrived, and Jessica immediately took the baby back. "Let Grammy Patricia hold her," Jessica cooed, handing Emma over without a second thought. Patricia held Emma for the next 45 minutes while I sat in the corner, watching. Over the next 3 years, I watched my son's family grow from a distance. Jessica had 2 more children, Oliver, then Madison. 3 beautiful grandchildren I barely knew. I'd offered to babysit, but Jessica always had an excuse. "Oh, that's so sweet, Barbara, but we have a nanny." The kids are on a very specific schedule. I wouldn't want to confuse them. Maybe another time. I'd invite them over for Sunday dinner at my small ranch house, but they rarely came. The kids are so picky. I'm not sure they'd eat anything, Jessica would say. You understand? I'd send birthday presents, carefully chosen and wrapped. The kids would send me thank you cards with Jessica's handwriting. Dear Grandma, thank you for the toy. Love, Emma. They never called to thank me themselves. I started to feel like a ghost in my own family, present but not seen, invited but not wanted. And Jessica had perfected the art of the polite dismissal. She was never outright rude. She never yelled or made scenes. She was always smiling, always pleasant, always had a reasonable explanation for why I couldn't be more involved. But slowly, methodically, she was cutting me out. Michael didn't notice. Or maybe he did and chose not to say anything. He was busy with work, busy with the kids, busy with the life Jessica had created for them. Whenever I tried to bring it up, he'd say, Mom, Jessica's just trying to establish boundaries. It's healthy. You should respect that. Boundaries. That was Jessica's favorite word. I need you to respect our boundaries as parents, Barbara. We're establishing boundaries with extended family. It's important that the children understand boundaries. What she really meant was, stay away. But I kept trying. I kept showing up to the monthly dinners, kept sending presents, kept being the cheerful, accommodating mother-in-law, because that's what you do. You don't give up on family. Until that Thanksgiving. Until the garage. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, Michael called me. Hey, Mom, what are you doing for Thanksgiving this year? My heart leapt. For the past 2 years, Jessica's parents had hosted, and I'd spent the holiday alone with a rotisserie chicken from Jewel Osco and a marathon of old movies. Nothing planned yet, I said carefully. Why? We're hosting this year. Just family. I want you to come. Really? Of course. Really. You're my mom. It wouldn't be Thanksgiving without you. I wanted to cry. I'd love to come, sweetheart. Can I bring anything? Just yourself. Jessica's got it all planned out. That should have been my first warning. Jessica always had things planned out. I arrived at their house at 2 o'clock on Thanksgiving Day, as instructed. I'd brought a pumpkin pie from the bakery I loved downtown, the one that made everything from scratch, where a single pie cost $35. I'd also brought wine. A nice Pinot Noir the man at the wine shop had recommended when I'd nervously explained it was for my daughter-in-law. Jessica opened the door wearing a cream-colored cashmere sweater and perfectly pressed jeans. She looked like she'd stepped out of a Pottery Barn catalog. Barbara, she said, her smile bright but not quite reaching her eyes. Come in, come in. You found the place okay? I'd been to their house dozens of times, but I didn't point that out. Yes, thank you. I brought pie and wine. Oh, Jessica took the items from me like they were contaminated. That's sweet. But I actually made 3 pies already and we have plenty of wine. But thank you. I'll just put these in the kitchen. She disappeared, leaving me standing in the foyer. The house smelled incredible. Roasting turkey, fresh bread, cinnamon and nutmeg. Through the doorway to the living room, I could see Jessica's parents on the sofa, drinks in hand. Patricia wore a silk blouse that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Her husband, Richard, was laughing at something on his phone. Emma, Oliver, and Madison were playing with new toys in the corner, expensive-looking wooden blocks and organic cotton dolls. Grandma, Emma, now 5 years old, ran over and hugged my legs. You came. Of course I came, sweetheart. I wouldn't miss it. Jessica, Patricia called from the living room, her voice sharp. Is someone at the door? It's Barbara, Jessica called back. Oh, a pause. Well, invite her in. Don't leave her standing in the hallway. The way she said it, like I was a door-to-door salesman rather than family, made my stomach clench. Michael emerged from the kitchen, his face flushed from cooking. Mom, you made it. He hugged me, and for a moment, everything felt normal. This was my son, my boy. Can I help with anything? I asked. Actually, Mom, why don't you just relax? Michael said. We've got it under control. Translation: stay out of the way. I sat in an armchair, not on the expensive sofa where Jessica's parents held court, and watched the afternoon unfold. Patricia talked about their timeshare in Scottsdale. Richard complained about airport security. Jessica bustled in and out of the kitchen, looking harried, but refusing every offer of help. The children played. Michael ran back and forth between kitchen and living room, trying to be in 10 places at once. I sat quietly, trying to find openings in the conversation. At one point, Patricia mentioned a charity gala she'd attended, and I started to share a story about a fundraiser my school had done for literacy programs. "Oh, that's nice," Patricia said, cutting me off mid-sentence to turn to Jessica. "Darling, what time did you say dinner would be ready?" Jessica checked her watch. A Tag Heuer I knew cost at least $5,000. "About 45 minutes. Everything's on schedule." I tried again later, attempting to ask Oliver about his preschool. He was telling me about a painting he'd made when Jessica swooped in. "Oliver, sweetheart, don't bother Grandma Barbara with all that. She's probably tired from her drive." "I'm not. Kids, why don't you show Grandpa Richard your new playroom? He hasn't seen it yet." The children scattered, and I was alone again. This is how it went for the next hour. Every time I tried to engage, I was gently redirected. Every story I started to tell was interrupted. Every question I asked was answered by someone else. I began to feel invisible. No, worse than invisible. I felt like an inconvenience. At 3:30, Jessica announced dinner was ready. We all moved toward the dining room. The table was stunning. A cream tablecloth I recognized from Williams-Sonoma, the Lenox china, crystal glasses catching the light from the chandelier, a gorgeous floral centerpiece that must have cost $200 easy. There were 6 place settings. I counted them twice to be sure. 6. Patricia and Richard at the head positions, Michael and Jessica on either side. 2 smaller places for Emma and Oliver. Madison, at 2 years old, was in a high chair at the end. I stood in the doorway, my purse still on my shoulder, looking at that beautiful table. "Where should I sit?" I asked quietly. Jessica was bringing out the turkey, her face flushed from the heat of the kitchen. She set the platter down carefully, then looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Oh," she said. "Right." She glanced at Michael, then at her parents, then back at me. "Barbara, the thing is..." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "We're trying something new this year. More intimate dining experience. Just immediate family at the table." My mouth went dry. "I'm Michael's mother." "Of course you are," Jessica said quickly. "I just meant, you know, it's complicated with the kids and my parents, and the dining room is small." The dining room wasn't small. It could easily fit 8 people. I'd been in here before. I'd seen them host dinner parties with 10 guests. "So where am I supposed to eat?" I heard myself ask. Michael looked uncomfortable. He opened his mouth, but Jessica spoke first. "I set up a nice spot for you in the garage," she said brightly. "It's quieter out there, more peaceful. I thought you might enjoy some time to yourself. You've been looking so tired lately, and with my parents talking so much and the kids being loud, I just thought you'd be more comfortable." The garage. She wanted me to eat Thanksgiving dinner in the garage. I looked at my son. Michael looked at his shoes. "Michael," I said softly. "Mom, maybe it's not a bad idea. You know how overwhelming these family dinners can get, and you do you do tell a lot of stories. Sometimes people can't get a word in edgewise." I felt something crack inside my chest. "I talk too much," I said. It wasn't a question. "It's not that you talk too much," Jessica said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. You're very enthusiastic about sharing, and that's wonderful. It's just, my parents aren't used to that communication style. They find it a bit overwhelming." Patricia, sitting at the table, didn't even look up. She was buttering a roll, completely unbothered. Richard was checking his phone. Neither of them said a word in my defense. I looked at my 3 grandchildren. Emma was watching me with wide, confused eyes. Oliver was already reaching for the mashed potatoes. Madison was banging her high chair tray, oblivious. "Okay," I heard myself say. "Okay?" Jessica blinked, Surprised. Yes. The garage is fine. Thank you for setting something up for me. Oh. Jessica looked almost disappointed. Had she wanted me to make a scene? To give her a reason to call me difficult, unreasonable, dramatic? Okay, great. Let me just get your plate. She disappeared into the kitchen. Michael touched my arm. Mom, you don't have to. It's fine, sweetheart, I said, patting his hand. You have your dinner. I'll be fine. Jessica returned with the paper plate, the cold turkey, the 3 green beans. She led me through the kitchen to the door that connected to the garage. She opened it, and a blast of cold November air hit me. The garage wasn't heated. Of course it wasn't. Here you go, she said, setting the plate on old workbench. Do you need anything else? A napkin? Water? No, thank you. Okay, well, we'll probably eat for about an hour or so, then we'll have pie. I'll bring you a slice when we're done. She started to close the door, then paused. And Barbara, I appreciate you being so understanding about this. Some mothers-in-law would make a big fuss, but you're being very mature, very rational. Thank you. Then she shut the door. I stood there in the cold garage holding my paper plate, listening to the sounds of my family starting their Thanksgiving dinner without me. That's when I smiled, because I finally understood. Jessica hadn't just been trying to distance me. She'd been systematically erasing me, making me irrelevant, training my son to see me as an inconvenience, conditioning my grandchildren to barely know me, and she thought I'd just accept it. But here's what Jessica didn't know about retired 4th grade teachers. We've dealt with bullies before. We know how they operate. And we know that the best way to handle a bully isn't to fight back in the moment. It's to be patient, to gather information, to wait for exactly the right moment. I sat down on that paint can, ate my cold turkey, and started planning. I didn't make a scene when I left that Thanksgiving. I waited until Jessica brought me a tiny slice of pie an hour and a half later. Not even the pumpkin pie I'd brought. She'd clearly tossed that, thanked her politely, and told Michael I was tired and heading home. Michael walked me to my car, looking guilty but not guilty enough to apologize. You okay, Mom? Fine, sweetheart. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry about the seating thing. Jessica just gets stressed with hosting. I could have said so many things. I could have pointed out that Jessica hadn't looked stressed at all, that she'd looked pleased with herself, that he'd just stood there and let his wife banish his mother to the garage like an unwanted dog. Instead, I smiled. It's okay, Michael, I understand. Jessica is trying to build her family traditions. That's important. He looked relieved. Exactly. I knew you'd get it. You've always been so understanding. I hugged him goodbye and drove home. For the next 3 days, I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't reach out at all. This was unusual. Normally, after any family gathering, I'd send a thank you text within hours. I'd call Michael the next day to chat. I'd send a photo or a funny memory. Radio silence made people nervous. On Monday, my phone rang. Michael. Hey, Mom, just checking in. You okay? You've been quiet. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just busy. Busy with what? Oh, this and that. Errands, appointments, you know. A pause. Are you sure you're okay? You're not upset about Thanksgiving, are you? Of course not. Why would I be upset? I don't know. Jessica thought you might be mad. Tell Jessica I'm not mad at all. Everything was lovely. Another pause. Longer this time. Okay, good. Well, I'll talk to you later. Love you, sweetheart. He hung up, and I knew he was confused. Good. My friend Linda had been my teaching colleague for 20 years before we both retired. She'd taught 6th grade, which meant she'd gotten all my former students after they left my class. We'd stayed close, meeting for lunch every few weeks to gossip about former colleagues and share stories about our respective families. Linda's son, Marcus, was a financial advisor. I called Linda the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. Barbara, how was your holiday? Interesting, I said. Listen, can I ask you something? Does Marcus still do that free financial consultation thing for friends and family? Of course. Why? Are you worried about your retirement? Something like that. I just want to make sure I'm making smart decisions. Linda set up a lunch meeting for the three of us that Friday at a cafe downtown. Marcus was in his early 40s, professional, kind. He'd been one of my students back in the day, a bright kid who'd gone on to Northwestern just like Michael. "Mrs. Morrison, great to see you," he said, shaking my hand. "Mom says you have some questions about financial planning?" "Actually," I said, "I have questions about my son's financial planning, or lack thereof." I explained the situation, leaving out the Thanksgiving garage incident, focusing instead on my concerns about Michael and Jessica's spending habits, the expensive house, the nanny, the lifestyle that seemed beyond their means. "I'm worried about them," I said, which was true. "I'm worried they're overextended." Marcus listened carefully, taking notes. "Without seeing their actual finances, I can't give you specifics," he said, "but based on what you're describing, if your son is making $180,000 and your daughter-in-law is making $95,000, that's about $275,000 gross. After taxes, they're taking home maybe $180,000, which sounds like a lot, but he showed me his phone screen. They're probably spending at least $150,000 a year on fixed expenses alone. That's not counting food, clothing, entertainment, travel, emergencies. So they're living paycheck to paycheck. If they're lucky, more likely they're carrying credit card debt, possibly significant credit card debt." I thought about Jessica's designer clothes, her expensive haircuts, the new furniture I'd seen every time I visited, the organic groceries, the wine collection, the artwork on the walls. "What happens if they can't make payments?" I asked. Marcus's expression turned serious. "Depends on how much debt they have. But if they're maxed out on credit cards and they miss a few payments, their credit score tanks, they could lose the house, lose their ability to finance anything. It's a cascade effect. What if someone they'd been relying on for financial help stopped helping?" Marcus looked at me carefully. "Mrs. Morrison, have you been giving them money?" "Some, not regularly. But Michael knows I'd help if he needed it." "Let me guess. He asks for loans that he doesn't pay back." I nodded. "Classic," Marcus said. "He's using you as a safety net, and they're probably using credit cards the same way, living above their means and assuming they can always borrow more when things get tight." "What would you do?" I asked. "If you were me?" Marcus leaned back, considering. "Honestly, I'd stop giving them money. Let them figure out their own finances. They're adults. They're making good salaries. If they can't manage their money, that's a problem they need to solve themselves, not one you should subsidize. Even if it means they struggle, especially if it means they struggle. Sometimes that's the only way people learn." I thanked Marcus and bought him and Linda lunch. As we were leaving, Linda pulled me aside. "Barbara, are you okay? You seem different." "I'm fine," I said. "Better than fine, actually. I'm just tired of being treated like I don't matter." Linda squeezed my hand. "Good. It's about time." That Sunday, Michael called. This was unusual. He typically only called when he needed something, or when Jessica reminded him to check in. "Hey, Mom, what you doing?" "Reading. What's up, sweetheart?" "Nothing much. Just wanted to chat. We haven't talked much since Thanksgiving." There it was. The real reason for the call. He was feeling guilty. "Thanksgiving was lovely," I said evenly. "Yeah. Listen, Mom. I've been thinking, maybe having you eat in the garage wasn't the best idea. Jessica was stressed, and she wasn't thinking clearly. You know how she gets with hosting. This wasn't an apology. This was an excuse. It's okay, Michael." "Really? Because Jessica thought you might be upset." "Why would I be upset?" "Well, I mean, it was kind of weird. Patricia mentioned it to Jessica later. She thought it was odd." "Interesting. So Jessica's own mother had questioned the decision. What did Jessica say?" "She said you preferred it, that you liked the quiet." "Of course she did." "Michael," I said carefully, "can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you think I talk too much?" A long pause. "No. I mean, you tell a lot of stories, but that's just who you are. Do my stories bother you?" "No, Mom. They don't bother me. Do they bother Jessica? Another pause. Longer this time. Jessica she likes things a certain way. You know how she is about control. I know exactly how she is. Something in my tone must have alerted him. Mom, what's that supposed to mean? Nothing, sweetheart. I'm just acknowledging what you said. Jessica likes control. Are you mad at her? No. Are you sure? Because you sound mad. Michael, I'm 63 years old. I've taught hundreds of children. I've been widowed. I've survived cancer. I hadn't, but he didn't know that. I think I've earned the right to sound however I want to sound. I'd never spoken to him like that before. Ever. In 33 years of being his mother, I'd always been accommodating, understanding, soft. Okay, he said slowly. Are you feeling okay? You seem really different. I'm feeling very clear, I said. Very, very clear. About what? Everything. Listen, Michael, I need to go. I have plans this afternoon. Plans? With who? A friend. I'll talk to you later. Love you. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking slightly, but it felt good. It felt powerful. For 33 years, I'd made my son's comfort my priority. I'd sacrificed, adjusted, accommodated. I'd bent myself into shapes I didn't recognize to fit into his life. No more. 2 weeks before Christmas, I received a card in the mail from Michael and Jessica. On the front was a professional photo of their family, Michael and Jessica, in coordinated cream and navy outfits, the 3 children arranged perfectly on their laps, everyone smiling with unnaturally white teeth. Inside, the card read, "Wishing you a joyful holiday season and a prosperous new year. With love, the Morrison family," printed. Not handwritten. Just my name and address on the envelope, also printed. I stared at that photo, at my son's forced smile, at Jessica's perfectly manicured hand resting on Emma's shoulder, at my 3 grandchildren who I barely knew. I wasn't in that photo. I wasn't part of the Morrison family. I put the card in a drawer and didn't send one back. 3 days later, Jessica called. She'd never called me before, always texted, always brief. "Barbara, hi, it's Jessica." "Hello, Jessica. I'm calling about Christmas. We're doing dinner at our house this year, and I wanted to extend an invitation to you." An invitation? Like I was a distant acquaintance, not Michael's mother. "What time?" I asked. "Dinner's at 5. But, actually, I wanted to talk to you about something first." Here it comes, I thought. "My parents are coming," Jessica continued, "and Richard's sister and her family, so it's going to be a pretty full house. I'm setting up a kids' table in the basement playroom, and I thought maybe you'd be more comfortable there. With the children, they just adore you. The children barely knew my name. You want me to eat with the kids, in the basement." "It's not like that," Jessica said quickly. "The basement is finished, it's beautiful, and the kids are at such a fun age. I just thought you'd enjoy spending time with them more than sitting with us boring adults." "Who else is at the kids' table?" "Well, just the 5 children. Emma, Oliver, Madison, and Richard's sister's 2 boys, who are 4 and 6. So I'd be supervising 5 children under the age of 7 while you and the other adults have dinner upstairs." "When you put it like that, it sounds bad. How should I put it, Jessica?" A pause. "I'm sensing hostility. I'm not hostile, I'm just clarifying. Look, Barbara, I'm trying to include you. I'm trying to make this work, but you're making it very difficult." "I'm making it difficult?" "Yes. You're being passive-aggressive. You've been weird ever since Thanksgiving. Michael said you barely talk to him anymore. You didn't send us a Christmas card. You're being difficult." I took a deep breath. Here was the moment. I could back down, apologize, go back to being the accommodating mother-in-law who accepted scraps and smiled through humiliation. Or I could finally, tell the truth. "Jessica," I said calmly, "I'm not coming to Christmas dinner." "What?" "I'm not coming. Thank you for the invitation, but I'm declining." "You're declining Christmas with your son and grandchildren?" "I'm declining spending another holiday being treated like an inconvenience." "Yes." "I have never treated you like an inconvenience." You made me eat Thanksgiving dinner in the garage, Jessica. You said you were fine with that. I lied. Silence on the other end of the line. I've been lying for 5 years, I continued. I've been pretending it's okay that you cut me out of my son's life, that you restrict my access to my grandchildren, that you find excuses to keep me at arm's length while you build this perfect little family that doesn't include me. I've been telling myself that if I just stayed quiet, if I just didn't rock the boat, eventually you'd accept me. But you never will you? Barbara, because this isn't about me being too talkative or inappropriate or any of the other excuses you've given. This is about you wanting to erase me. You want Michael to have your family, your traditions, your values. You want my grandchildren to barely remember me. You want me gone, but you want me to disappear quietly so you don't look like the bad guy. That is completely unfair, Jessica said, her voice rising. I've tried so hard with you. I've invited you to everything. I've been nothing but welcoming. You've been polite. That's not the same as welcoming. And I'm done accepting politeness as a substitute for actual family connection. So what? You're just going to cut us off? You're going to abandon your son and your grandchildren because your feelings are hurt? No, I said. I'm setting boundaries. I think you understand those. You talk about them constantly. This is ridiculous. I'm going to have Michael call you. That's fine. Tell him I love him, but I'm not coming to Christmas. I'm going to spend it with people who actually want me there. I hung up before she could respond. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. But I felt lighter than I had in years. An hour later, Michael called. Mom, what the hell? Jessica just called me crying. She said you were horrible to her. I wasn't horrible. I was honest. You told her you're not coming to Christmas. Mom, that's crazy. Why is it crazy? Because we're family. You don't just skip family holidays because you're mad about something. I've skipped holidays before. You just didn't notice because I skipped them alone. What are you talking about? The last 2 Thanksgivings, Michael, when Jessica's parents hosted. I spent them alone. You knew that. You just didn't care. We invited you this year. You let your wife put me in the garage with a paper plate. Jesus, Mom, I thought you were over that. You said you were fine. I said that because I'm so used to making you comfortable that I forgot how to tell the truth. But I'm remembering now. So what? This is some kind of revenge? You're punishing Jessica? No. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. By refusing to see your grandchildren at Christmas? By refusing to be humiliated at Christmas. If you want me to see the kids, you can bring them to my house. We can have our own celebration. Just us. No Jessica, no in-laws, no audience for my inadequacy. You're being unreasonable. I'm being reasonable for the first time in 5 years, Michael. It just feels unreasonable to you because you've gotten used to me accepting whatever scraps you throw my way. Scraps? Mom, we've invited you to everything and made me feel unwelcome at everything. There's a difference between inviting someone and making them feel wanted. It was quiet for a long moment. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just think about it. Really think about it. When was the last time you made me feel like I actually mattered to your family? You do matter. Then prove it. Come see me. Bring the kids. Have a meal at my house where I'm not eating in the garage or the basement. Show me that I'm more than an obligation you check off your list once a month. Fine. We'll come by. When? I don't know. After the holidays, January. So not Christmas. Mom, Jessica already planned Christmas. Her whole family is coming. I can't just change everything. I'm not asking you to change everything. I'm just asking you to choose me sometimes. Once. For once in 5 years, choose me over keeping Jessica happy. Another long silence. I need to go, Michael finally said. I have to help Jessica with the kids. Okay, sweetheart, I love you. He hung up without saying it back. I sat there in my quiet house, in my comfortable old armchair, and cried for the first time in years. Not because I regretted what I'd said, but because I knew I'd just lost my son, at least for now. I spent Christmas morning at a volunteer kitchen downtown, serving meals to homeless families. It was something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for when I was teaching. Now I had all the time in the world. The woman running the kitchen was named Sharon, a retired nurse who'd been volunteering there for 15 years. We worked side by side, ladling mashed potatoes and turkey onto plates, smiling at tired faces, watching children light up over small gifts donated by local churches. "First time volunteering?" Sharon asked during our break. "Yes. My family is busy today." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Family can be complicated." "That's putting it mildly." "You have kids?" "One son. 3 grandchildren I barely know." "Their choice or yours?" "Theirs. Or really my daughter-in-law's. She's been cutting me out systematically for years. I finally stopped pretending it didn't hurt." Sharon poured me a cup of coffee from the industrial-sized pot. "Good for you. Took me years to set boundaries with my own daughter. She kept expecting me to babysit whenever she wanted, never asking, just announcing. Then she'd get mad when I had other plans. Finally, I told her no. She didn't speak to me for 8 months. What happened after 8 months? She needed a babysitter." Sharon laughed, but it was a sad sound. "They always come back when they need something. The question is whether you let them keep treating you that way when they do." I thought about that while I served the next round of meals. At 3 o'clock, my phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Merry Christmas, Mom. Kids are asking about you." I stared at that text for a long time. Then I typed back, "Merry Christmas, sweetheart. Tell them I love them." I didn't say I missed them. I didn't ask about coming over. I didn't cave. Another text came through 5 minutes later. "Jessica feels bad about how things went. She wants to talk." "I'm sure she does," I typed back. "Tell her I'm spending the day volunteering. We can talk another time." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "Okay." I turned off my phone and went back to work, 3 weeks into the new year. Michael called at 9 p.m., which was unusual. His voice was tight, strained. "Mom, are you busy?" "No. What's wrong?" "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." My heart rate picked up. "Okay. Did you give me money for the house?" "When we bought it." There it was. "Yes," I said. "I gave you $15,000 toward the down payment. You asked me for it 3 years ago. Did I say I'd pay you back? You said it was a loan, but you never mentioned paying me back, and I never pushed the issue." "Fuck." He sounded like he was on the verge of tears. "Did you give me any other money? Ever?" "A few thousand here and there over the years, for various things. Emergencies, you called them." "How much total?" "Around 23,000, not counting the wedding gift." I heard him take a shaky breath. Jesus Christ. "Michael, what's going on?" "We're in trouble, Mom. Bad trouble." "Tell me." And he did. Jessica had been hiding credit card debt, a lot of it. She'd been using cash advances to cover their monthly expenses, paying minimums, opening new cards to pay off old ones. A classic debt spiral. Michael had found out 3 days ago when a credit card company called about a missed payment. He'd confronted Jessica, and everything had come out. They were $87,000 in credit card debt. Their savings account was empty. They were 2 months behind on the mortgage. Jessica had borrowed money from her parents without telling Michael. Another $20,000 they owed. "I don't know how this happened," Michael said, his voice breaking. "I thought we were fine. I thought she was managing everything. She said she was good with money. Her parents are rich, so I just assumed." "You assumed. She knew what she was doing." "I'm such an idiot." "You're not an idiot. You trusted your wife. That's not idiotic." "I need help, Mom. I hate asking, but I'm desperate. I know things have been weird between us, and I know I've been a shitty son, but how much do you need?" "I don't know. A lot. Maybe 10,000? Just to catch up on the mortgage and make minimum payments until we can figure out a real plan." $10,000. More than I'd given him for the house. I thought about Marcus's words. Stop giving them money. Let them figure out their own finances. I thought about Sharon at the soup kitchen. They always come back when they need something. I thought about sitting in that garage eating cold turkey while my family laughed inside. "Mom, are you there?" "I'm here." "So, Can you help? This was it. This was the moment I'd been waiting for without realizing I was waiting for it. No, I said quietly. Silence. What? I said, no, Michael. I'm not giving you any more money. Mom, I just told you we're about to lose our house. I heard you. And you're saying no? Yes. I don't understand. You've always helped before. You've always been there when I needed you. Exactly. I've always been there. For 33 years, I've been there. I worked 2 jobs to put you through college. I gave you money I couldn't afford to give. I accepted being cut out of your life because I thought that's what being a good mother meant. Being endlessly available, endlessly accommodating, endlessly useful. This isn't about Thanksgiving. This is about all of it. Thanksgiving was just the moment I finally saw clearly what's been happening for years. You and Jessica have been using me, Michael, as a bank, as a babysitter you never call, as someone to invite to holidays so you can check the included mom box and feel good about yourselves while treating me like an inconvenience. That's not fair, isn't it? When was the last time you came to see me just because you wanted to? Not because you needed something? Not out of obligation? When was the last time you chose me? He didn't answer. I love you, I continued. I will always love you. You're my son. But I'm done being your safety net while your wife makes me eat in garages. I'm done subsidizing a lifestyle you can't afford while being made to feel like I'm not good enough to sit at your table. So you're going to let us lose everything. No, you and Jessica are going to figure this out yourselves, like adults, like the capable, educated, employed people you are. We could be homeless. You won't be homeless. You'll downsize. You'll sell the house you couldn't afford in the first place. You'll cut up the credit cards. You'll get financial counseling. You'll learn to live within your means. You'll do what millions of other people do every day. I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe it took me this long. Jessica was right about you. Oh? What did Jessica say? She said you were never really supportive, that you were always judging us, looking down on our life. I defended you. But she was right, wasn't she? You're jealous of what we have. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Michael, you don't have anything. You have debt and pretense, and a wife who cares more about impressing her parents than being honest with her husband. I'm not jealous. I'm sad for you. Don't call me anymore, he said, his voice cold. If you're not going to help, then I don't want to hear from you. Okay. That's it? You're just going to let me cut you off? You're the one cutting me off, sweetheart. Again. Just like you've been doing in small ways for 5 years. The difference is this time I'm not going to beg you to let me back in. Fine. He hung up. I sat there holding my phone, waiting to feel regret, waiting to feel guilty, waiting for the overwhelming urge to call him back and apologize and write him a check. But all I felt was relief. I heard about what happened next through Linda, who heard it through her sister, who lived in the same suburb as Michael and Jessica. Within 2 weeks of our phone call, a for sale sign went up in their yard. Within a month, Jessica's luxury SUV was gone, replaced by a much older Honda CR-V. The nanny was let go. Emma and Oliver were pulled from private preschool. I heard through Linda's sister that there had been a terrible fight at the country club where Jessica's parents were members. Apparently, Jessica had shown up asking them for more money, and Patricia had refused in front of several other members, saying loudly that she and Richard had already done enough, and that Jessica needed to learn some financial responsibility. The humiliation must have been devastating. I didn't call Michael. He'd told me not to, and I was respecting that boundary. But I thought about him constantly. About my grandchildren, about whether I'd made the right choice. In early March, my phone rang at 7 a.m. It was Jessica. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello? Barbara. Her voice was small, tight. I need to talk to you. Okay, can I come over? I looked around my small, neat house, the house I owned outright because I'd lived within my means for 40 years. When? Now. I'm outside. I looked out the window. Sure enough, there was the old Honda CR-V parked at my curb. "All right," I said. "Come in." Jessica looked terrible. Her hair, usually perfectly styled, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore yoga pants and a Northwestern sweatshirt. Michael's from college, I recognized it. No makeup, dark circles under her eyes. She'd been crying recently. Her eyes were red and puffy. "Thank you for seeing me," she said, standing awkwardly in my living room. "Sit down. Do you want coffee?" "No, thank you. I can't stay long. Michael doesn't know I'm here." I sat in my armchair. She perched on the edge of the sofa, not leaning back, not getting comfortable. "How are the kids?" I asked. Confused, upset. Emma keeps asking why we have to move. Madison doesn't understand what's happening. Oliver. She closed her eyes. "Oliver said he misses Miss Kelly. That's the nanny. He doesn't understand why she doesn't come anymore." "I'm sorry." "Are you?" Jessica looked at me directly for the first time. "Are you really sorry? Or are you glad we're suffering?" I considered the question seriously. "I'm not glad you're suffering. I'm glad you're facing reality. Those are different things." Jessica's jaw tightened. "Michael told me what you said, that you wouldn't help us, that we deserved this." "I didn't say you deserved it. I said you needed to handle it yourselves." "We're losing everything, Barbara. Everything we've built. The kids' school, our home, our entire life. We're going to have to move to some tiny apartment in a bad neighborhood. My parents won't even talk to me. My mother," her voice cracked. "My mother said I embarrassed the family, that I'm a failure. That must be very painful. Don't patronize me." "I'm not. I'm sure it is painful." Jessica stood up suddenly, pacing. "I came here to ask you to reconsider, to help us. Michael won't do it. He's too proud now. But I'm begging you, please. We'll pay you back. We'll sign a contract. Whatever you want. Just please, help us keep our house." "No." Jessica spun around. "Just like that? No? Just like that? Why? Why do you hate me so much?" "I don't hate you, Jessica. I don't even really dislike you. You're just a person who made choices I wouldn't have made." "You mean I'm a person who isn't good enough for your son?" "No. I mean you're a person who spent 5 years trying to erase me from my son's life, and now you want me to rescue you from the consequences of your own financial irresponsibility. And I'm choosing not to." Jessica sank back onto the sofa, her face in her hands. "I never tried to erase you." "Yes, you did. I wanted things to be perfect. I wanted my family to be perfect. My parents have always had this perfect family, perfect house, perfect marriage, perfect everything. And I wanted that. I needed that. I couldn't have that if I was around being imperfect." She looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw something real in her expression. Not anger or defensiveness, but actual vulnerability. "You made me feel poor," she whispered. I blinked. "What?" "You made me feel poor. Every time you came over. Every time you brought those thoughtful gifts and told stories about sacrificing for Michael, about working 2 jobs, about doing everything yourself. It made me feel like I wasn't enough, like nothing I did mattered because I hadn't suffered the right way. My parents gave us money, and that made you the better person somehow. The more authentic person, the better mother." I sat back, genuinely surprised. "Jessica, I know you didn't mean to, but that's how it felt. And Michael worships you. He talks about you constantly, how strong you are, how you did everything alone, how you're his hero. And I kept thinking, how do I compete with that? How do I be enough when his mother is a literal saint who sacrificed everything? I'm not a saint. I know that now." Jessica laughed bitterly. "A saint would help us." "A doormat would help you," I corrected gently. "There's a difference." We sat in silence for a moment. "The Thanksgiving thing," Jessica said finally. I was terrible. I know I was terrible. My mother brought it up later and said it was cruel. I tried to justify it at the time, but I knew. I knew even as I was doing it that I was being awful. Why did you do it? Because I wanted one holiday where everything was perfect, where it was just us and my parents and the kids, where I didn't have to worry about you telling some long story that would make my mother give me that look, that disappointed look, like I'd failed somehow by marrying into a family that wasn't like theirs. So you put me in the garage. So I put you in the garage. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face now. And you just smiled. You didn't fight. You didn't cry. You just smiled and took your plate and went. And I thought I'd won. I thought I'd finally established the boundary I needed, but then you got quiet. And then you stopped. You stopped being there, and Michael got distant, and everything started falling apart. And I know it's not all because of you. I know we did this to ourselves with the debt and the spending, but it's easier to blame me. Yes, she said it simply, honestly. Yes, it's easier to blame you. At least she was being honest now. I can't help you, I said again. Not because I want to see you suffer, but because helping you now would be helping you avoid the very lesson you need to learn. You can't build a life on image and debt and other people's money. You have to build it on what's real, what's sustainable, what's true. Even if it means my kids suffer, your kids will be fine. They'll adjust. Children are resilient. What they need isn't a big house in Winnetka. They need parents who are honest with each other, who live within their means, who teach them that worth isn't measured in square footage or tuition costs. Jessica wiped her eyes. Michael won't forgive you for this. Maybe not. That's his choice. You're really going to let him go? Your only child? I'm not letting him go. He's choosing to go. Just like he's been choosing Jessica's comfort over my dignity for 5 years. I'm just finally refusing to chase after him while he does it. Jessica stood up. I should go. Jessica, I said as she reached the door. I'm sorry? For what it's worth. For what? For whatever I did that made you feel like you weren't enough. That wasn't my intention. I just wanted to be part of my son's life, part of my grandchildren's lives. I wasn't trying to compete with you. She looked at me for a long moment. I believe you, but it doesn't change anything, does it? No, I said. It doesn't. She left. I sat in my living room for a long time after she was gone, wondering if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. 4 months later, I didn't hear from Michael or Jessica for 4 months. In that time, I reconnected with old teaching friends I'd lost touch with, started seeing a therapist to process my grief over losing my son. I didn't call Michael. I didn't text. I didn't reach out to the grandchildren, though I thought about them every single day. I'd set a boundary, and I was going to respect it. Then, on a Thursday in late June, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Michael standing there, alone, looking thinner and older than I remembered. Hi, Mom, he said quietly. Hi, sweetheart. We stood there looking at each other for a moment. Can I come in? Of course. I made coffee. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd done homework with him when he was a kid, where I'd taught him to play chess, where we'd had 1,000 breakfasts together before his father died. The house sold, Michael said. We moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Evanston last month. It's small, really small. The kids share a room. Jessica and I barely have space for a bed, but it's clean and safe and we can afford it. That's good. Jessica got a new job, pays less than her old one, but it's stable. I took on a consulting side project for extra income. We're paying off the credit card slowly. It'll take years. But you're doing it. We're doing it. He took a sip of coffee. Jessica's parents are still barely speaking to us. Patricia told everyone at her country club about the debt. Jessica's humiliated. She cries a lot. I'm sorry. Are you? He looked at me, and there was no anger in his face, just exhaustion. I mean, isn't this what you wanted, for us to fail, to be humbled? No, I said firmly. I wanted you to stop living beyond your means, to stop using people, including me, as props in a life you couldn't afford. That's different from wanting you to fail. It doesn't feel different. I know. He stared into his coffee. Emma asked about you last week. She said she missed Grandma. She couldn't remember the last time she saw you. My heart clenched. How is she? Adjusting. She misses her old room, her old toys. Most of them didn't fit in the apartment, so we donated them. She cried for 3 days, but she's okay. She's resilient. Children are. Jessica says I should hate you. Do you? He thought about it. I did. For a while, I really did. I thought you were punishing me, being cruel, choosing revenge over family. And now I think you were right about everything. Jessica and I have been in counseling. We can't afford it, really. But we have to, or we won't make it. And our therapist asked us to look at our patterns, how we got into this mess, and when we really examined it, he looked up at me. We've been using people, Mom. Using you, using her parents, using credit cards. Living like we were entitled to things we hadn't earned, and I let Jessica push you out because it was easier than standing up to her. Because I wanted her to be happy more than I wanted you to be part of our lives. Michael, no, let me finish. I've been a shitty son. I let my wife make you eat dinner in a garage. In a garage, Mom. What kind of person does that? What kind of man lets someone do that to his mother? A man who was trying to keep his marriage together. A coward, he corrected. I was a coward. And when you finally set boundaries, when you finally said enough, I punished you for it by cutting you off. Just like Jessica had been doing for years. I learned from the best, I guess. We sat in silence. Why are you here? I asked finally. Because I miss you. Because the kids miss you. Because... He took a shaky breath. Because Jessica and I both need to apologize. Really apologize. Not just say the words, but show you that we understand what we did. And ask if maybe there's a way back from this. Jessica sent you? Actually, it was her idea. She's been different since we lost everything. Smaller, quieter. She cries more, but she's also more real, I guess. She said she needs to apologize to you in person, but she's terrified you'll slam the door in her face, so I volunteered to come first, to see if there's any chance you'd be willing to listen. I thought about Jessica sitting in my living room 4 months ago, crying, asking for money. About her admission that I made her feel poor, about the vulnerability I'd seen in her for the first time. I'll listen, I said. Michael's shoulders sagged with relief. Really? But I'm not promising anything beyond that. I'll listen to her apology. But I won't be your safety net anymore, Michael. I won't be your bank. I won't be the grandmother you trot out when it's convenient and hide away when it's not. If we rebuild this relationship, it has to be real. It has to be mutual. It has to matter. I understand. Do you? Because this is my one and only boundary. If you cross it again, I'm done. For good. I've spent 63 years putting other people first, and I have maybe 20 good years left if I'm lucky. I'm not spending them being treated like an obligation. I get it, Mom. I promise. Then bring Jessica over. Tomorrow, if she's willing. We'll talk. Michael stood up, then hesitated. Can I hug you? I stood and opened my arms, and my son, my grown, broken, learning son, fell into them and cried like he used to when he was small and David had just died and the world felt too big and scary. I'm sorry, Mom, he sobbed. I'm so sorry. I know, baby, I know. Jessica came over the next day with Michael and all 3 children. Emma was taller than I remembered. Oliver had lost 2 front teeth. Madison was talking in full sentences now, chattering about her new room and her new toys. They were strangers to me, and that broke my heart. Jessica looked nervous. She held a small potted plant, a peace lily. I didn't know if I should bring anything, she said, handing it to me. This felt, I don't know, appropriate. We sat in the living room. Michael took the kids outside to play in the backyard while Jessica and I talked. Thank you for seeing me, she started. You came all this way. I should at least hear you out. Jessica took a deep breath. I've been in therapy, individual and couples with Michael, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about the kind of person I've been. The kind of person I became trying to live up to this impossible standard my parents set. She looked down at her hands. I need you to understand something about my childhood, she continued. My parents are obsessed with appearances. Everything had to be perfect. Our clothes, our house, our grades, our activities. My mother used to say, "What will people think?" about everything. I couldn't have a bad day without it reflecting on the whole family. I couldn't wear the wrong outfit or get a B on a test or date someone she didn't approve of without a lecture about family reputation. That sounds exhausting. It was. And somewhere along the way, I started believing that my worth was tied to how things looked, not how they felt, but how they looked. So when I met Michael, this brilliant, successful man from a good school, I thought I'd finally done something right, finally impressed them. Did you? For about 5 minutes. Then my mother started pointing out everything that wasn't perfect. His family wasn't wealthy. His father was a contractor. His mother was a public school teacher. We had a nice wedding, but not as nice as my cousin's. Our house was beautiful, but not as big as my brother's. It was never enough. So you tried to make it enough. Yes, I spent money we didn't have trying to keep up, trying to prove that I'd married well, that I'd built this perfect life. And you. She looked at me. You were this reminder that Michael came from somewhere else, somewhere more modest, more humble. And I was terrified that if people saw you, if they really knew Michael's background, they'd see that I hadn't married as well as I pretended, that I was still the same insecure girl trying desperately to please parents who can never be pleased. So you erased me. I tried to. I'm ashamed of it now, but yes, I tried to minimize your presence, make you less visible, and the more you tried to be part of our lives, the more threatened I felt, like you were exposing the lie I was living. The Thanksgiving garage incident, Jessica closed her eyes. That was my lowest moment. My parents were there, and I was so desperate to show them this perfect family, this perfect dinner. And you were being yourself, warm and talkative and present, and I panicked. I thought if my mother saw you really interacting with us, being part of things, she'd see, I don't know what, the cracks in my perfect facade. So I excluded you in the cruelest way possible. You did, I know, and I have no excuse. None. It was evil. I was evil. You weren't evil. You were insecure and desperate. That doesn't make it better. No, I agreed. It doesn't. But it explains it. An explanation is the first step toward change. Jessica wiped her eyes. When you refused to help us financially, I was furious. I thought you were punishing me, being vindictive. But Michael's therapist asked us to consider whether you might have been protecting yourself, setting a healthy boundary. And when I really thought about it, you were. I'd spent years pushing you away, using you when I needed you, treating you like you were less than us. And you finally said no. You finally protected yourself. And that's when everything fell apart. The finances would have fallen apart eventually anyway. I know, but losing your support, emotional, not even financial. That's when Michael really looked at what we'd built, and he realized it was hollow, that we'd sacrificed real relationships for fake status, and he was angry at me, mostly, but also at himself. Is your marriage going to survive this? I think so. Maybe. We're trying. We're being honest for the first time, really honest. It's painful and messy and terrifying, but it's real. She looked at me directly. I'm not expecting you to forgive me. I'm not asking for money or help or anything except maybe, she paused, maybe a chance to start over. Not pretending the past didn't happen, but acknowledging it and trying to do better. What does better look like to you? I don't know yet. I'm still figuring it out. But I think it starts with honoring the people who've been kind to us. People like you, who gave so much and asked for so little. I want my children to know their grandmother, really know you. I want you at our table, a real table, not a garage or a basement, eating real food off real plates and being part of real conversations. I want to stop performing and start living. I studied her face. She meant it. At least, she meant it right now, in this moment of crisis and clarity. The question was whether she'd still mean it when things got easier. "I'll give you one chance," I said finally. "One. We'll start slow. Sunday dinners at my house. Maybe once a month. You bring the kids, we cook together, we eat together, we talk. Really talk. No performance, no pretending. Just family being family, messy and imperfect and real." Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. Thank you so much. But Jessica, hear me clearly. If you ever treat me like that again, I'm done. I don't care if you're struggling or thriving. I don't care what your parents think. I don't care about anything except being treated with basic dignity and respect. If you can't give me that, then we have no relationship. Do you understand?" "I understand. And the kids. I won't be a stranger to my grandchildren anymore. You will bring them to see me regularly. You will allow me to have a real relationship with them. They don't have to love me. I understand I'm essentially a stranger to them right now, but they need to know me. Agreed?" "Agreed." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything said hanging between us. "I'm sorry," Jessica said again. "I'm truly, deeply sorry." "I believe you," I said, and I did. But I also knew that apologies without changed behavior meant nothing. We'd see. It's been a year since that conversation. Michael and Jessica still live in the 2-bedroom apartment in Evanston. They're making progress on the debt, slowly but surely. Jessica drives the same used Honda. They pack lunches instead of eating out. They shop at Target instead of boutiques. And every Sunday, without fail, they bring the kids to my house for dinner. We cook together. Jessica has learned that I'm actually a pretty good cook when someone lets me into the kitchen. Emma helps me make her favorite lemon cookies. Oliver sits on the counter and supervises. Madison toddles around getting into everything, which is what 2-year-olds do. Michael and I talk while we work. Really talk, about his job and his worries and his hopes. He tells me things he doesn't tell Jessica, and I listen without judgment. Jessica has started asking me for advice sometimes, about parenting, about managing on a budget, about dealing with her mother's continued disapproval. We're not close. Maybe we'll never be close. But we're real with each other now. The kids know me now. Emma runs to hug me when they arrive. Oliver shows me his artwork from school. Madison calls me Gamma, which melts my heart every time. We eat dinner at my small kitchen table, all 6 of us squeezed in, elbows bumping, conversation flowing. No one interrupts me when I tell stories. No one checks their phone during dinner. No one makes me feel like I'm too much or not enough. I'm just grandma, just mom, just Barbara. And it's enough. Last month, Jessica's parents came to town. Jessica actually invited me to join them for lunch. A real invitation, not an obligation. Patricia was polite, but cool. Richard barely acknowledged me. I didn't care, because after lunch, when Jessica walked me to my car, she said, "Thank you for coming. I know that was uncomfortable, but it meant a lot to me that you were there." Why did it mean a lot? Because you're part of my family, our family, and I'm not hiding that anymore. My mother can deal with it or not deal with it. That's her problem, not mine. This right here, was growth. I'm not naive. I know relationships are fragile. I know that Jessica could revert to old patterns if their financial situation improves. I know that Michael still struggles with putting Jessica's needs before mine sometimes. But I also know that I'm no longer willing to accept crumbs. I set a boundary, and I held it, and it nearly destroyed my relationship with my son. But in the end, it saved us both. Because now when we're together, it's real, and real, messy, imperfect love is worth so much more than the hollow, perfect performance we had before. Was it worth it? Eating Thanksgiving dinner alone in that garage, cold turkey on a paper plate, while my family laughed without me? Yes, 1,000 times yes. Because that was the moment I finally learned to choose myself, and in choosing myself, I taught my son and my daughter-in-law what real family looks like. It looks like this: Sunday dinners around a crowded table, lemon cookies made with sticky little hands, stories that run long because no one interrupts, laughter that's genuine, not performed, love that's earned through showing up, day after day, honestly and imperfectly. It looks like my grandson Oliver, 6 years old now, telling me last week, "Gamma, you tell the best stories. I like it when you talk a lot." That's what it looks like, and it's beautiful. Thanks for listening to my story. Until next time, remember, know your worth, establish your boundaries, and never let anyone, not even family, convince you that demanding basic human dignity makes you the villain. Now go establish some boundaries of your own.